Clerks 3 Day is upon us. I am seeing Clerks 3 tonight. I'm very excited for it, so let's get this last View Askewniverse film out of the way before I see it. Jay and Silent Bob Reboot was released in 2019, directed by Kevin Smith, starring Jason Mewes, Kevin Smith, and Harley Quinn Smith. And I was very excited for this movie back in 2019 when it was first coming out. At the time, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was my favorite in the View Askewniverse. Still is, but I was still very high on that movie. I watched it all the time. You can just ask my wife. Sadly, I did not see it in theaters because it was only a Fathom event, and I limit myself to 1 or 2 Fathom events every year. And the nights that it was showing, it was sold out, so I wasn't able to go see it, even if I hadn't reached my limit for the year. But either way, let's go ahead and get into this review. Starting off with the good, and there's still quite a bit that I enjoyed in this movie. First of all, Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith as Jay and Silent Bob are just as hilarious as they always are. Jay actually gets a bit of character development in this movie, beyond just being the loudmouth fool who just spouts nonsense all the time. It's set years after Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, years after Clerks 2, and he's got a bit of maturing to do. He's a middle-aged man now, and he's gotta, grow up at some point. And I love the fact that they actually worked Kevin Smith's real-life weight loss into the story of this movie, with Silent Bob also losing weight, and it culminates in probably the funniest joke in the entire movie, and it's in the first act. But either way, I just thought it was hilarious. And then you have Harley Quinn Smith as Jay's daughter, his love child with Justice from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. They are not a couple in this movie. Justice has moved on and married someone else. But Jay is swept up into this whole thing where they're trying to stop a reboot of the film from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and his daughter tags along with them, but she doesn't know she's his daughter. So there's a lot of funny stuff there, and there's actually some really genuinely sweet moments between the two. I really like the chemistry between Harley Quinn Smith and Jason Mewes in this film. And I said that Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is probably the most cameo-heavy film of the View Askewniverse, but I digress. I think this one is. If this one tops even Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, because you have the usual suspects from the View Askewniverse returning. You get a cameo from Brody from Mallrats. You get a cameo from Ben Affleck as Holden McNeil, which is actually one of the best scenes in the movie. It was actually a very beautiful scene. And at the time that this movie was made, this was made around the time where Ben Affleck was done with Batman. And it's looking like he's back now, but that's not the point. This was made at the time he was completely done. And the scene was actually a very beautiful scene of Ben Affleck saying goodbye to the role and moving on with his life, and it was just a great scene. And then you have a cameo from Joey Lauren Adams as Alyssa from Chasing Amy as well. And once again, Dante has a cameo, and then you have a whole slew of just a bunch of celebrity cameos. You get Chris Wood and Jesse Rath from Supergirl. Melissa Benoist is in this movie as the reboot version of Jay from the film that they're rebooting. And then you have probably the funniest cameo in the entire movie, and that is Val Kilmer as the reboot version of Silent Bob. And honestly, that's just one of the funniest things I have ever seen, because anybody who keeps up with Val Kilmer knows that he had throat cancer, which he had to get surgery for, which impeded his ability to speak. He can speak just a little bit, but not as much as he used to be able to. So casting him as Silent Bob was just one of the most hilarious things Kevin Smith has ever done. And obviously Val Kilmer was in on the joke, or else he wouldn't have signed on to it. But I just thought it was hilarious seeing that. A ton of cameos in this movie, a lot of callbacks to earlier films within the View Askewniverse, which I'll get a little bit more on that later. Soundtrack is great, as always. There's even a Silence of the Lambs reference, which is a callback to Clerks 2. David Dastmalchian has a cameo in the opening as well, and I love David Dastmalchian. He's a very underrated actor. And like I said, there's just some genuinely heartfelt and emotional moments, especially with Jay and his daughter in this film. Especially when his daughter finds out that she is his daughter. It's just a really great scene, and I really like the bonding that they do throughout the movie. But that's about all for the good. Let's go ahead on to the bad. And I do have some issues with this film, unfortunately. First of all, with the humor. Yes, there's a lot of funny stuff in this movie, but I just can't help but be a little disappointed that a lot of the humor was just a lot of callbacks to previous View Askewniverse films, specifically callbacks to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, a few to the Clerks films, and Mallrats. I'm just a little disappointed in that, and also the third act just went a little too meta for meta's sake, and I like it when something goes meta, but this one just went way too meta, I suppose. But that's about all for the bad. On to the final thoughts, and I do enjoy this movie. It's not one of the best in the View Askewniverse, I'll admit it, but I still have fun with it. Jay and Silent Bob Reboot has some great emotional moments, great character arcs, especially for Jay, and I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. That was my thoughts on Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Have you seen this movie? What did you think about it? Let me know down in the comments. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.